and then I'll start with the presentation. Okay for you, Kelly? Yeah? Okay. So hi everyone, welcome to this event for the release of the publication on diverse and inclusive economies, a right to the city component. My name is Sofia Torres. I'm part of the global platform for the right to the city, and we're very happy to have you here with us today. I'm gonna just do an introduction in other languages because we'll be having this event in multiple languages, in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And then I'll also explain a little bit on how to deal with the translation. Entonces, hola a todas y todos. Mi nombre es Sofía Torres, parte del equipo de la Plataforma Global por el Derecho a la Ciudad. Estamos muy contentas de tenerles acá con nosotros para el lanzamiento de esta publicación sobre economías diversas e inclusivas como un componente del derecho a la ciudad. Este evento lo estaremos haciendo en diversos idiomas, entonces pueden poner acá abajo en su Zoom, tendrán el icono de interpretación y pueden seleccionar el idioma que mejor les convenga, y si tienen cualquier pregunta o problema con la traducción o alguna duda o comentario, pues siéntanse libres de hacerlo también en el chat que tenemos. Y luego, después de las presentaciones iniciales, tendremos, esperemos, un largo momento para compartir entre todos reflexiones y preguntas. Olá a todas e todos, meu nome é Sofia Torres, parte da equipe de apoio da Plataforma Global pelo Direito à Cidade. Estamos muito felizes em contar com a presença de todos vocês nesse lançamento da publicação Economias Diversas e Inclusivas como um componente do direito à cidade. Hoje esse evento ele vai estar sendo transmitido em português, espanhol e inglês. Então, para acessar a tradução, vocês podem clicar aqui no ícone embaixo de interpretação e selecionar o seu idioma de preferência. Se vocês tiverem qualquer problema, é só escrever para nós aqui da equipe no chat, que a gente vai tentar ajudar na melhor das nossas capacidades. Também, se vocês tiverem perguntas, comentários, reflexões, nós esperamos que depois de um ciclo de apresentações, a gente possa abrir ao debate de todas e todos. Também vou pedir que, enquanto vocês não estiverem falando, para deixarem os microfones silenciados. E sem mais delongas, eu vou passar ao inglês novamente para fazer a introdução do evento e começarmos oficialmente. So, hi everyone, just saying this in English as well, which is the language that I'll proceed the presentation with. If you need interpretation, you can just click here on the icon and select your preferred language. And also, if you have any issues with interpretation or questions and comments, you can put them in the chat and we'll make sure to address them throughout the event and also in the open floor that we'll be holding. So with no further ado, we'll start. As I said, is with great joy that we're having this event to basically introduce, present, and discuss this publication that we are launching today, that our colleagues will put here in the chat, and the link to the publication that is now actually live in our web. So as I said, the publication is called Cities and the Most Human Settlements with Diverse and Inclusive Economies, understood as a right to the city component. Is a joint publication in which we have worked with partners from the organizations that you can see here, RIPESS, Streetnet, Urgenci, and WIEGO, of which are also represented in this event, and of which we are counting with participation of the team and representatives here. So thanks to everyone that was involved in this effort. It has been a pleasure. We're very happy to be working on this with all of you. And basically to explain a little bit the idea and the origin behind this publication. So as you know, for organizations and collectives working with issues related to territorial development and urban issues, October is an important month marked by a series of commemorative days, starting with World Habitat Day on the first Monday of October, and culminating on the 31st of October, which is acknowledged by the United Nations as World Cities Days, but claimed by the platform as the World Day for the Right to the City. So it's a very important moment every year for awareness raising and organizing and discussing among our networks. And this year, as the official thematic of this commemorative days has been centering around economic resilience and also the role of cities, but also human settlements in development and fostering economic development, we saw as a very important moment also to tension and add to the conversation on what does development mean. Are we just looking at cities? Are we looking at territories? And also engaging from a right to the city perspective in this discussion and from the perspective of economic initiatives and models that might not always receive the adequate attention, recognition, and support. And this is going to be the basis of what we'll be sharing today with this initial presentation, but also with all of the inputs of those that have been invited to compose this event as well. And beyond this framework, we also saw it very opportune to keep on engaging on this discussion also for two basically happenings that came through this year that were on one hand a resolution by the UN General Assembly approved in April on the social and solidarity economy that is fruit of the work of many organizations such as RIPESS, WIEGO, Streetnet, and Urgenci that have been working with the UN, in particular also with a task force dedicated to the social and solidarity economy at the International Organization for Labor, and that basically is approved in April and puts forward the need to further recognize the social and solidarity economy and also to put forward mechanisms by states to support the initiatives and the organizations working on the social and solidarity economy. So we embrace and we're very happy with this outcome, and we hope to see how this can further evolve and spur the work in the social and solidarity domain, economy domain, and it's something that we're gonna talk a little bit more through this presentation. But also we saw another resolution that is dedicated and creates an official commemorative day to visibilize the care economy. So from now onwards, starting a few days from now, every 29th of October, we'll be commemorating the International Day of Care and Support. And this is basically also points towards a growing recognition of the importance of care in all of its dimensions and the need to support the right to care, but also the rights of care of those that give care, of caregivers. And this is further visibilized by a Human Rights Council resolution that was put forward and supported by more than 30 countries and approved just a few weeks ago in September, and basically indicates from the Human Rights Council of the United Nations the need to also further visibilize and support the activities related to care, and also put forward mechanisms to support care from a rights-based perspective. So we see all of these happenings as an opportune confluction of synergies that put forward the need and the opportunity to further engage in this discussion of what are other economic models, alternatives to the ones that we see in place today, and how better to support them. So basically, that's why we are looking at the diverse and inclusive economies as a part of the right to the city, as one of the 8 components through which we conceptualize and operationalize the right to the city from the global platform. And we see it, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in the rest of the presentation, as a transversal component that is key for the implementation of all the other components that we see here as well. But also to say that this publication that we are publishing today is also the continuation of an effort of publishing thematic documents that conceptualize and further engage on what these different components mean. So here you can see the diversity of components that we have in this framework, and for many of them, we have been publishing specific publications looking at their different points of view and actions that can be put forward specifically in the local level in these different realms. So now to look more specifically at this idea of diverse and inclusive economy. So basically what I will be doing now, trying to be as brief as I can, but also go a little bit more in depth. I'm going to present some of the main ideas of the publication that basically seeks to conceptualize the diverse and inclusive economies as a component of the right to the city, so in its territorial dimension as well, and through three key pillars, which are the care economy, the popular, also so-called informal economy in many places, and the social and solidarity economy. And then at the end, looking at some recommendations and enabling actions that we see that can be put forward at the local level to support those. So basically some ideas that are key to this dimension of diverse and inclusive economies as a component of the right to the city is that the idea that they present an alternative, a paradigm shift from the current stated way of operating of the capitalistic system of basically seeing economic activity being framed very much at the accumulation of profits. So the idea is also to visibilize the alternatives and approaches that already exist to other frameworks for economic action and for economic initiatives that are centered on the collective interest of communities and not individual interest. And in this sense, putting forward as a pillar and as a basis the idea of securing livelihoods and decent work for all, but also integrating a vision and a perspective that puts forward, as I said, the collective interest of communities, but also the care for the planet as well, because as we know, the current models that we have in place are also having strong and undeniable impact in the planet and ecosystems as well. So in this sense, as I was mentioning before, the idea is also looking at the care for the planet, but also the care within communities and the care for each other and for oneself. And it has to do a lot with visibilizing alternatives, because the alternatives already exist, but they are in many terms not visible, not adequately supported, and also persecuted, or let's say, persecuted, or in many times we see exclusion of some economic actions, in this sense, for example, in terms of informal activities, informal work, but basically the bulk of activities that can be seen as informal, but can be seen also as part of the popular economy alternatives led by communities. In this sense, this idea that this is a transversal component that is related to the fulfillment of all the components of the right to the city that I had shown before. And when we speak about this idea of facing what diverse and inclusive economies are from a perspective of the right to the city, we want to put forward two main ideas above all. That is the idea of the promotion of social and spatial justice. So again, this idea of promoting a collective interest, but also seeing how economies are shaped not in a vacuum, but in the territory, and how this produces territorial inequalities as well. So how we are thinking on how economic activity plays out from this right-based approach, promoting the collective interest of all, but also spatial equality also. But also putting forward the power that communities have in self-organizing and providing solutions for their sustaining and for finding livelihoods and ways of basically having their needs met in a decent and equal way. So it's also about fostering and making ways for communities to thrive through this perspective of equality. And in this sense, we think that is very important. And again, we could go through the intersections of many components, but in this sense, I wanted to put forward three that are very vital in the reading that we do. First, the idea of fulfilling social and environmental functions, so that economic activity is first and foremost centered around the promotion of the collective interest, and that what we can see it in many manners, but in the sense that it's basically put forward into an interest that benefits the collectivity, the community, and not only private individual interest, and this taking into consideration also the environment. And then non-discrimination, because we see how intersectional inequalities are also reflected into the ways that economic activity is developed and those who benefit from that, and also what kind of activities and groups are recognized and supported in their economic activity. This is something that we'll be talking a little bit more on those intersections a little bit further down the presentation, but also very important having to mind the idea of inclusive urban and rural linkages, because even one of the first things that we were talking about when we were trying to engage with this framework of the thematic chosen for Urban October was we can't talk about urban economies. It's a continuum, we know, and in terms of economic activity, this is obvious. But even of it being obvious, it's important to see really this continuum and the interlinkage, and not see those relations through a prism of exploitation and as if they were just unilinear, going into one direction, and basically seeing how they can be more equally spatially as well, and having the environment as well as a key component on this discussion also. So, as I had mentioned, the paper and the approach that we are putting forward on the idea of diversity and inclusive economies is focused on based on three pillars, which are the social and solidarity economy, the popular so-called informal economy, and the care economy, which I'll go very fast on conceptualizing quickly, but I won't develop too much on this. I'll let you also discover on the publication, but also because on the first panel that we'll have here in this event, colleagues from the partner organizations will be giving a little bit more insight on those components also. So the social and solidarity economy, again, puts forward a framework that is basically very much on which we are basing this idea of diverse and inclusive economies, putting forward, again, the idea of having alternatives to the current system, and that are grounded on a strong set of principles that are ethically and value-based. So, for example, you can have some of those cited here: autonomy, cooperation, democracy, and solidarity. So in this sense, I think that one thing important to stress and complement what has been said before is not just the idea of the promotion of the collective interest, the care for the environment, but also how these other forms of organizing economic activity have also very strong consequences in terms of deepening democracy, transparency, and community organization as well. So, because also, as we know, in the current system as it is set, one phenomenon that is very clear is also the increasing corporate capture and accumulation of power in some few, let's say, if we look at the global paradigm, companies that many of them operating transnationally, but even some operating only nationally, have in terms of decision making, we see an incredible gap in terms of power of decision between some of those companies and other organizations and community organizations, and how this imbalance of power also leads to process of corporate capture of decision making, and also of lack of responsibility for these enterprises. So I would say that one core component of this view of social and solidarity economy is reverting this situation and also leading to a scenario of improved democracy, of more participation and more equality in decision making as well. Then going to popular, so-called informal economy, and we make this distinction because many times this name of informal is many times put in a way when we're talking about economy, it is linked to the view that are the economic activity that is being developed outside of the institutional mechanisms of full-time, stable, and protected employment. But in many times, this only is used but to denominate a certain kind of activity where we have other activities that could be identified with the formal economy, but don't operate as such under those norms, while others that don't operate in those norms, but that also have important benefits for the communities, are seen and designated as informal, as a derogatory, and also as a way of promoting and leading to discrimination. So in the sense, when we are claiming also the idea of popular economy, is to visibilize that there is a very large amount of economic activity that is being developed under this scope, and that visibilizing, protecting, and supporting those that carry out those activities is formal. So, and when we're looking at urban spaces, for example, we can note street vendors, waste pickers, domestic workers, and home-based workers, which again, as was being mentioned, the idea of intersectionality, many of those are not legally recognizing their work, so they are submitted to situations with not adequate social protection, worker benefits, and contracts, and being exposed to risky situations and longer journeys of work. And this is also, in many cases, seen as an intersection with being situations of poverty, stigmatization, and criminalization. And finally, the importance of also recognizing the benefits and that these economic activities have, and those carrying out have for the wider community. So in terms of many of those workers are also paying taxes in a variety of ways, and this is not always recognized and seen, and how they are also responsible for providing services that are key to our cities. For example, is very obvious in the case of waste pickers, but also in street vendors. We have seen different ways that have been put forward to support and make possible the work of street vendors that working, for example, in informal markets during the pandemic, to the testament of their role in ensuring adequate food systems in cities and settlements as well. And finally, in terms of the care economy, we are looking at activities that are key for the reproduction and sustaining of life. This basically specific care activities to those that require specific care, but also the day-to-day activities of care that we might have inside our homes, but also in a community collective space as well. In this sense, it's a discussion that is being had more and more, how this care work is mostly done in an unpaid and unrecognized manner, void of benefits, protections, in the case that they are remunerated many times through low wages or without compensation, and how this care work is astonishingly led and mostly done by women and in an unpaid manner. So as I was saying in the beginning, we are starting to have more efforts to recognize care as a right, and again, the right to provide care, receive care, and to care for oneself also. So for example, this is recognized in the Constitution of Ecuador, but also in the Constitution of the City of Mexico. and how we can look not only at how care should be understood also as a system and not through punctual piecemeal initiatives, but really looking at how to develop systems that support care in different areas of life. So we're looking at food systems, mobility, education, housing, and also how our cities can be planned and developed in manners that support care. We know through the historic work of feminists on how to criticize in many ways how urban development has been led and planned to reflect and support economic, productive, driven activities, and invisibilizing and not giving adequate space for care as well. And this is something that little by little we're starting to see an intersection on also how to reflect spatially a society that is built towards care in a collective manner as well. So to close the presentation and pass the word to our speakers, we end the paper with the recommendation of some enabling actions that can be put forward, in particular by local and regional governments at the local level, but not only, and that are structured into three pillars: the recognition and visibilization of these economic activities. So first and foremost, recognizing them and ending the cycle of stigmatization and criminalization through promotion of awareness-raising campaigns and specific regulation, but also disseminating best practices and collecting data, because in many times there is not enough data about some of those activities, and this also is something that affects the pathway towards having awareness of the scope of those activities, but also being able to address them through and support them through public policy. Then on direct support, devising specific instruments to support diverse and inclusive economies. So this can encompass ways of direct support and resource provision. So for example, allowing for the use of public facilities, but be them markets or squares, but also community centers, through also grants and access to finance, but also by adapting public tendering to also make it more easy for organizations from the social and solidarity economy, such as cooperatives, to also access biddings of public tendering. And yeah, so some of examples on this, but also working transversely across departments in promoting these economies in diverse areas. So for example, the municipalities that are working into from the ecology or public cleaning areas of city governments into incorporating the support and the work of waste pickers cooperatives, and again, support capacity building, certification, and organization from those groups. And finally, also, we cite some sectoral initiatives, for example, that can be done in terms of the intersection of popular economy activities in public spaces, but also how examples and initiatives from the social and solidarity economy or from the care economy at a community level can be incorporated in processes of integral neighborhood upgrading, but also how diverse and inclusive economies should have a central role in environmental policies, and always through a prism of transversal support to caregivers, and caregiving, again, understood not as a sectoral policy, but as a transversal policy through the idea of care systems. So thank you, everyone. Sorry for this slightly longer presentation. I hope this motivates you also to further discover the publication. Here I leave you with the program from today. So after this introduction on the publication, we'll start with our opening panel, which I'll pass the mic in a second to Kelly to introduce our panelists, and then we'll move forward to an open discussion, starting with some reactions from colleagues that we have here, from academia, from local governments, organizations, from international organizations that are going to give some comments and insights to what we are discussing, and then opening the floor for a collective discussion with everyone, and then having some closing remarks by our colleague Lorena Zarate from the Global Platform team. So with no further ado, I pass the mic to my colleague Kelly Agopian from the Global Platform team as well, who will be moderating the chat.
Thanks, Sophia. Thank you for this very very interesting introduction. I think it contextualized very well our discussion for today. And as Sophia mentioned, the first part of this discussion will be centered in some of the partners that helped directly building this campaign and building this publication. So we're going to have some representatives from RIPESS, which is Intercontinental Network for the Promotion of the Social and Solidarity Economy, a representative from Streetnet, which is International Alliance of Street Vendors, and also a representative of Urgenci, which is the international grassroots network of all forms of regional and local solidarity-based partnerships for agroecology. I'm going to introduce each of the panelists before they speak. So I'm going to start with Josephine, which will be our first panelist. Josephine Olive Parilla is one of the founders of Patamaba WIEGO, a community-based social enterprise found in the lake town of Angono, Rizal, east of Metro Manila. She's an informal workers leader in the Philippines, being on the executive committee of HomeNet Philippines and also representing here RIPESS. She's going to talk a little bit of the linkages between the right to the city and the social and solidarity economy in Asia. So welcome, Josephine. Can you hear me?
Can I try to open my share screen, please? If not, I would like to ask Sophia to do. Okay. Okay, I think I cannot.
I'm sharing your presentation.
Okay.
I'm just gonna put it on slideshow, Josephine, but it should be okay.
How about this one? Is it okay?
Oh, let's see, it's loading.
Okay.
Okay. We can see your screen.
Okay. A pleasant good evening to all. I would like to share with you our informal economy initiative on social solidarity economy. Again, my base organization is the Patamaba Workers and Informal Enterprise, and I'm also currently the regional coordinator of HomeNet Southeast Asia and the president of HomeNet International. Next, I will see first. Okay.
Josephine, can you put on full screen because we can see?
Yeah, I did. Okay. Done already. Okay. So my presentation, I'll be talking about our initiative on urban gardening and community kitchen towards building a community-based social solidarity model with bottom-up approach, and I'm going to link also this to the city, the Quezon City. As a background, Patamaba WIEGO was organized in 2006 with 361 members. We are mostly women and majority are home-based workers. Again, as what Kelly said, WISE is a social solidarity enterprise responding to social and environmental problems through sustainable economic activities benefiting both its members and the larger community. We are affiliated to a bigger national Patamaba who has 385 local chapter, and we are also affiliated to HomeNet Philippines, a national network of 27 national and local members or membership-based organization.
Josephine, I'm so sorry. I'm deeply sorry, but your screen is freezed. So I don't know if you are I don't know if you're rolling your slides, but we can see only the first slide.
Really?
Yes, I don't know what happened.
Okay, can Sophia do it na lang for me?
Okay, okay, please, Sophia.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So I have done that already. WISE is a social security enterprise, and then we are affiliated to, next slide please. And we face the challenges on hunger, health, and COVID crisis, unemployment connected to unpaid care work, democratic deficit, widening digital divides, and of course, climate change. Next. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, our local responses is or initiative by the organization. We have solidarity-based action for relief and recovery. We have to bridge the digital divide in communication, education, and marketing. We did the Savings and Loan Association to facilitate livelihood recovery. We shift from the usual production. During the COVID time, we were able to produce personal protective equipments, health and wellness, food security through community-supported organic agriculture or community gardens, pantries, and kitchen. Next. Next slide. So again, next slide. This is what I'm telling you a while ago. Next slide, please.
So Josephine, I have the next slide already, the one with the pictures.
Yes, it's all right. I mean, that's the one I told you a while ago. Next slide. And of course, this is the Purple Market, the Patamaba online store, which we use to not just to we offer food, accessories, and household products in the market, and every purchase you make, you support our local household in most area of Patamaba, no? At least in a bigger area of the organization. Next slide. And the Purple Market is not only for just to show in the market, but of course we spread brand personality, which we said that when buying directly from the Purple Market, you are helping the nanay or the mother to provide their food in the table and for their family. We help our products will help our customer with their home needs, and of course we empowered our local producers because we also taught them on to be self-determined and the ability to produce and to market their own products. Next slide. Next, please. So again, this is the health and wellness, food security. Next slide. And this is what our food security. We had backyard and communal garden, and we have community kitchen. We are selling this in our we have a community kitchen in our place. Next slide. And our approaches are aligned with various goals in the social solidarity dimension and SDG indicators. As we are socially responsible governance, we are a people-centered development. We also have environmental conservation. We are socioeconomic sustainable, and we do adhere edifying ethical values. So at the right side is the SDG. Linking to the city, SSE and the right to the city, the case of the Quezon City here in Metro Manila. Next slide. Right to the city, the right to the city is the right of all inhabitants to inhabit, use, occupy, produce, govern, and enjoy just, inclusive, safe, and sustainable cities, villages, and human settlements, defined as common essential to a full and decent life. It is also a collective right that highlights the territorial integrity and interdependence by recognizing the civil, political, economic, social, cultural, and environmental rights. Next slide, please. Next slide. So Quezon City governance is characterized by inclusivity, cultural diversity, and solidarity-based economic sustainability. As to inclusivity, next slide, Quezon City Ordinance for Workers in the Informal Economy, who comprise the overwhelming majority of the Quezon City population. Recognition and representation for organized groups in People's Council or in any local special bodies in the city. Then trust towards the localization of the Magna Carta of workers in the informal economy. And they are now convening the Informal Workers Development Council in the city. And they have an urban farming for community-based urban farmers, which we name this on our on the city mayor, which is Joy Belmonte, and they do have programs for persons and children with disability. For diversity, Quezon City Ordinance on Anti-Discrimination on the basis of the SOGI, the sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. We also conduct the Quezon City Pride March and programs inclusive of the LGBTQI plus population. On solidarity-based action, economic based sustainability, we have 800 community-based urban farms that's being supported for cooperatives and social enterprises. So I would like, on the next slide, I would like to highlight of the three social solidarity-based economic sustainability. The first one is the Kabahagi Center for Children with Disability that promotes the right of children with disability who are aged younger than 18 years old with their family to achieve their holistic and inclusive development through their participation in projects that are being given to them by the city, facilitated by the city to their needs in the area of education, health, livelihood, and social empowerment. The second one is the Krunali Urban Farm, which is also located in a community park within the city. It is a community-led farm in the heart of the city and is brought through the collective action of local residents or local urban farmers and community volunteers. The farm pioneer in maximizing the hydroponic technology, and it provides food and income to the members of the community. And also this group also transferred their technology to other who are needing their help and providing them with seeds and seedlings. And the third one is the next slide, please. And the third good practice is the new Greenland Farmers Agriculture Cooperative. Again, it is also being situated in the heart of the city, and it helps them to improve their income and livelihood through sustainable farming practices. And the cooperative are also helping the urban farmers in marketing and distribution, technical assistance, promote sustainable farming practices, strengthen the farmers and the community. Next slide, please. For the next few slides, well, of course, again, this November has been declared the SEC month in Quezon City, and where SEC is being mainstream in all their program, and they are developing now the SEC roadmap. And of course, again, as we link to our organization, the city will be co-hosting us on the HomeKnit Southeast Asia Conference and Trade Fair to showcase products of home-based workers this coming November. Next slide. On
Yes,
our ways
you have
forward,
1 minute.
Yes, increase participation in social dialogue, strengthen the organization, continue to campaign social protection. Next slide, please. Next slide. Last slide. Support enterprise formalization, continue urban and community gardening, adapt the new normal by digital economy. The next slide, please. I would like to share with you Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. In solidarity, next slide, we are strong, so therefore we can overcome whatever untoward incident will come to us, especially the issue of climate change. Good evening and thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Josephine. It was a very interesting presentation. It was very interesting to know better the case of Quezon City and how it's improving economic sustainability through a program, so a consolidated program. So it was very interesting to know better this practical and applied initiative. So now I'm going to call the representative from Streetnet, Bamidel Frances Onopke. Sorry if I didn't speak correctly your name.
Don't worry, you're okay. Good afternoon.
I'm just introducing you 1 second.
All right. Okay.
So Frances is the president of the Federation of Informal Workers Organizations of Nigeria, and she's representing Streetnet International here. And also today she's going to give us a little bit, to talk a little bit about the perspective of organized street vendors and the experience of informal workers in Nigeria, how they are organizing, their difficulties and strategies, and also their relationship towards local governments and their main demands. So thank you very much for your presence here, Frances, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Bamidele Frances Onokwe, as she has rightly said. I'm from Federation of Informal Workers Organization of Nigeria, an affiliate of Streetnet International, a global alliance of street vendors organizations. Informal economy is a diverse set of economic activities that are not protected or regulated by the government. People working in the informal economy in Nigeria include street vendors, waste pickers, informal cross-border traders, domestic workers, repair technicians, farmers, and petty manufacturing, among many others. Work in the informal economy is full of challenges. In Nigeria, access to workspace is incredibly becoming a serious challenge, with crimping elevation and harassment by government officials, and outright extortion by government officials are common. You see them coming one after the other, asking for this ticket, the other ticket, which is a bit big embarrassment. Just a few weeks ago, a Lagos suburb with many few members suffered an eviction when about 10,000 people were evicted from their homes and workplace without any arrangement for where they can be taken to in lieu of the time they are going to get another place for them. If you want to work with other civil organizations to cry out over this development, while taking the matter to courts, over the last 20 years, over 120 informal settlements, informal workplace, informal clusters have suffered this fate. And it has really affected most of our members' business that they cannot even feed themselves. FON has also had to engage in several street protests and litigations to protest not only illegal evictions, but also illegal arrest of street vendors. You just see them coming in, picking the street vendors on the road, requesting for these tickets every day. The ticket even the street vendors are normally pay for is about 6 to 5 tickets. By the time you calculate these tickets, it's amounting to about 1,500, 2,000 naira. And how much is the proceed they are making? How much is the capital they have invested on? Another issue we have had to deal with in FIWON is problem of lack of social protection for informal workers. We have constantly cried out over this. Especially during the COVID-19 crisis, we made a case for our members to be able to access government assistance in form of palliative, which was given to the wrong hand because FIWON was not carried along in most of the activities that is being done. Particularly since 2020, we now work with some government agencies to access some support as a result of our advocacy. It is also necessary to mention that FIWON has established cooperative societies in several states of Nigeria to encourage members in savings and access to credit, as well as a few social insurance services like health insurance. We have also been able to facilitate members access to solar energy products, which they are using in their home because there's no electricity, no energy in the country.
Francis?
Every minute they see the lights.
Francis, sorry to interrupt you. Just the interpreters are asking if you can speak a little bit more slowly. Just to
All
ensure
right.
interpretation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cooperative societies in several states of Nigeria was created to encourage members' savings and access to credit, as well as a few social insurance services like health insurance. We have also been able to facilitate members' access to solar energy because the electricity in Nigeria is nothing to write home about. So we have to encourage our members and train them on how to make use of solar energy so that they can be able to have light in their homes and in their working space. As a result of lack of electricity in most of the communities, even in the urban area, we lack electricity. In the course of our delegate conference, which we held last month, September 26 to 28, 2023, representatives of informal workers organization from 21 states of Nigeria discussed at length and these issues and came out with 2 resolutions that have been widely reported in the Nigerian media through the social, TV, radio, Twitter, Facebook, and other social handles. The 4 resolutions dealt with issues around social protection, while the second one dealt with issues of social solidarity economy. This is summarized below. Resolution on social protection recommended the following: that the Nigerian government should go beyond tokenism in providing social protection for informal workers and in providing palliative during economic shocks like the recent COVID-19 lockdown, fuel subsidy removal, and massive devaluation of the naira. Secondly, we requested for urgently revise of the micro pension plan provided by governments, complementary contribution to informal workers, savings into pension fund, to reduce the effect of inflation on the savings of informal workers into the pension fund. We are informal. What formal workers are assessing should be applicable to informal workers. Immediately implementing universal health coverage or free health insurance for elder citizens who are 60 years and above, pregnant women, and children 12 years and below, because most of them don't have access to health care from the government. They want them to expand the coverage of the Employees Compensation Act in the area of survivors' benefits, disability care, and support and geriatric care to include informal workers, because most of these cares are being given to formal workers alone. And we are informal workers that our population is more than the formal workers in Nigeria. Then number 5, we want them to create the Ministry of Informal Economy so that they can oversee the implementation of the above and other measures towards progressive modernization, development, and formalization of informal economy. If we have Ministry of Informal Economy being created and informal workers have issues, it can be taken to this ministry and we'll sit down on the round table, dialogue over it, and resolve on it. Then the second resolution on social and solidarity economy also recommended the following: that all state chapter of FI1 should, as soon as possible, register cooperative society in their states all over Nigeria so that we can have a central cooperative society. That the National Secretariat should expand and improve its e-platform to integrate the cooperative societies in the states. They want them to develop programs for members of FI1 cooperative society, offer them financial support, information, advice, and training to streamline the process of creating and formalizing the cooperative in all the states so that we can have benefits from the government. That the Department of Social Security and Cooperative Development under the Federal Ministry of Labor and the state government should offer serious financial and technical support for the growth and development of one cooperative in particular, and the cooperative intervention all over Nigeria. The cooperative movement in Nigeria in general is lacking all this. The government social intervention programs, palliative and grants and supports intended for informal workers should be rooted through Fee1, because most of these palliatives were not rooted Fee1, and it's been politicized. By the time these palliatives come out, the right people that need it, that are informal workers that need these palliatives, they cannot even access it. So this is our resolution, and particularly we want Fee1 cooperative in particular and cooperative movement in Nigeria generally to have access to whatever palliative, whatever grants, whatever thing that is being provided to get to us through Fee1, which is an umbrella body of all informal workers in Nigeria. These broad issues will form the focus of work, campaigns and advocacy for the leadership in the next few years. The situation is very bad in Nigeria, but we know if we continue to fight, the quality of work and life of our members will be improved and even positively transformed. And one other thing is we lack space. Street vendors do not have quality space. Sometimes you see them walking on the street.
You have 2 minutes.
All right. So these are the things we requested from government, and which we believe with our agitation and advocacy, this to be given to us. Nothing for us without us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Frances, for bringing us the perspective of the Nigeria informal economy and bringing how important we is to consider the informal economy and the informal workers and how they contribute to the general economy, and how economic and other extreme events and shocks make them more vulnerable than they already are. So how we have to address all those challenges and bring and press the governments so they are considering this very important group's rights. So thank you very much, Frances, for bringing the Nigeria context. And now we are inviting Isa Alvarez, which is a representative from Urgenci. Urgenci is the grassroots network of all forms of regional and local solidarity-based partnerships for agroecology. Isa Alvarez is an agroecologist and researcher, and also currently co-president of Urgenci. And she's going to bring us her thoughts and her contributions on the role of community-supported agriculture in the promotion of the right to the city, and also bring some concrete cases and initiatives and policies that can be implemented to support initiatives in this area. So welcome, Isa. The floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, Kelly. Gracias a todas. Gracias, Sofía, y a todas las que habéis organizado este evento. ¿Me escucháis bien, verdad? ¿Me confirmáis? Vale, perfecto. Bueno, estaba escuchando súper interesada, ¿no?, las intervenciones anteriores.
Yes.
Perdonad. Vale. Y bueno, yo simplemente, lo que voy a compartir es un poco nuestra perspectiva desde Urgenci, desde, como habéis comentado, desde la perspectiva de las asociaciones locales y solidarias para sostener la la agroecología, ¿no? Y cómo enlaza esto, bueno, con el marco que ha presentado Sofía y con todo lo que estamos hablando aquí, ¿no? Que al final son, bueno, nuestros puntos clave y creo que es donde nos encontramos un poco todos los que estamos aquí, ¿no? Entonces, bien, gracias. Nada, no voy a profundizar en esto porque creo que es el marco en el que trabajamos las personas que estamos aquí, pero bueno, simplemente por agarrar un marco un poquito más teórico y estructural. Bueno, antes ya también mencionaba Sofía la economía feminista y la perspectiva feminista. Desde esa perspectiva voy a intentar hablar despacio, ¿eh? Aviso a los intérpretes. Yo me embalo rápido, pero voy a intentarlo. Nada, decía que desde por ejemplo, a mí me sirve mucho, nos sirve mucho trabajar desde la perspectiva de la mirada ecofeminista porque nos pone de manifiesto, ¿no? Bueno, pues esa parte visible y esa parte invisible de las economías, que tiene todo que ver con el documento que se está presentando hoy aquí, ¿no? Porque, bueno, vemos cómo la parte invisible es todo lo que conecta tanto con el medio ambiente, con un ecosistema sano, con los cuidados y con un trabajo comunitario, ¿no? Porque todo eso, en la medida en la que no tiene relación o no está reconocido por el mercado, digamos, mercado con mayúsculas, ¿no? El mercado oficial, pues es absolutamente invisibilizado, muchas veces no remunerado y no forma parte de, digamos, la cadena de valor oficial, ¿no? Aunque esto, vale, como ya se ha dicho, está cambiando poco a poco. Y la parte que sí que está visible es, bueno, la parte que tiene más relación con el Estado y lo más visible es el mercado, pero el mercado global, el mercado con mayúsculas, ¿no? Entonces, ese es un poco el marco económico capitalista que tenemos ahora mismo. Y entonces, agarrando desde ahí, si pasáis ya a la siguiente diapositiva, por favor. Gracias. Bueno, nosotras en varios trabajos que hemos realizado de manera colectiva, como Urgenci, pero también en otros espacios, hablamos de los propios, bueno, en la economía feminista se habla del iceberg, ¿no? De esa parte visible y la parte invisible que lo sostiene. Pero nosotras también hablamos de que el sistema agroalimentario tiene su propio iceberg, ¿no? Replicando lo que es visible y lo que no es visible, ¿no? Dentro de este sistema. Y ahí lo que vemos es que la parte más visible es la gran distribución, ¿no? Lo que tiene que ver precisamente con ese mercado global y ese mercado con mayúsculas, ¿no? O sea, y luego, si ven la imagen, aparece la producción y el consumo, que aparece justo en la línea donde está el agua. Eso lo colocamos ahí porque la producción y el consumo son visibles o invisibles dependiendo del modelo, ¿no? En la medida en la que el modelo esté más vinculado a una visión capitalista y de esa gran distribución está reconocido y es más visible, y en la medida en la que está más vinculado a lo que veíamos en el iceberg anterior de tierra, cuidados y comunitario, es más invisible, ¿no? Y esto, si vemos la parte de abajo, lo que aparece son los hogares, ¿no? Que es lo que en realidad sostiene todo esto, porque además cuando hablamos de alimentación está totalmente vinculado todavía a día de hoy, aunque nos alimentemos fuera de las casas, todavía está muy vinculado a las decisiones que se toman dentro de los hogares, que mayoritariamente, de nuevo, como está vinculado a los cuidados, esta labor y esta responsabilidad sigue recayendo mayoritariamente sobre las mujeres, ¿no? Y luego también incluimos ahí en la parte absolutamente más invisible a las personas que ni siquiera tienen un hogar, ¿no? Y entre quienes tenemos un hogar que podemos imaginarnos como tal y quienes no tienen hogar, pues hay múltiples escalas, ¿no? Pasando, bueno, pues por múltiples tipos de hogar y seguro que las que están aquí trabajan mucho más que yo este tipo de situaciones. Y nos parece importante visibilizar todo esto porque incluso dentro de nuestros propios movimientos muchas veces, bueno, nos ceñimos, cuando hablamos, por ejemplo, de compra pública, hablamos de cantinas escolares, que es algo importante, pero no hablamos, por ejemplo, a veces de la compra pública de ayuda alimentaria, que bueno, que hay mucho que hablar al respecto, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, ¿Por qué hablar de este marco? No voy a profundizar. Si alguien tiene más interés, que me contacte y charlamos sobre esto. Ahora no es el tiempo. Porque el trabajo que hacemos desde... Yo he puesto en el título de mi presentación alimentación sostenida por la comunidad. ¿Por qué? Porque esto nació como agricultura sostenida por la comunidad, en inglés CSA, pero con el tiempo, porque cuando nace desde el consumo para sostener a las personas que producen alimentos y que son agricultoras. Pero las múltiples crisis nos han llevado a que ese sostén ya no sea solamente en una dirección, sino que lo que colocamos en el centro es la alimentación de todas y todes, y a veces la parte a la que hay que sostener es la productora, pero a veces hay personas en situaciones muy precarias que no pueden acceder por sus propios medios a este tipo de alimento agroecológico sano y que desde la perspectiva de derecho a la alimentación debería ser accesible para todas las personas, ¿no? Entonces, digamos que lo que trabajamos nosotros es un modelo de producción agroecológico que estaría en la parte invisible, con un sistema y modelos de consumo que tampoco están próximos a esa gran distribución, muy próximo a lo que sucede en los hogares. Cuando hablamos de cambiar hábitos alimentarios y de trabajar otras relaciones, tenemos que pensar qué supone eso, por ejemplo, en la redistribución de los tiempos y la redistribución de las tareas en el hogar, ¿no? Si hablamos de tenemos que no comer ultraprocesado y tenemos que cocinar más, ya, pero ¿quién lo va a hacer, ¿no? ¿A quién le estamos poniendo esa función, ¿no? ¿O quién va a asumirla? Y lo mismo, bueno, entonces lo que nosotras hacemos es trabajar en esa parte invisible para precisamente hacerla visible, ¿no? Y trabajar en darle la vuelta y también en resignificar la parte visible también, ¿no? Porque también es importante resignificar a qué llamamos, no hablar, como dice, creo que esto lo dice Vandana Shiva, que dice que hemos pasado de hablar de los mercados a hablar del mercado, ¿no? Espero que esto tenga sentido en inglés. Queremos volver a hablar de los mercados, ¿no? Y de los mercados diversificados, ¿no? Y también de hablar de territorio, ¿no? Y de esas relaciones, como habéis dicho en un inicio, entre lo urbano y lo rural, ¿no? Que no es solamente, y desde una perspectiva que esté lejos del extractivismo, ¿no? Sino que hablar de igual a igual y hablar desde una perspectiva, aquí estamos hablando de derecho a la ciudad, pero desde una perspectiva, bueno, no es un pero, es dentro de ello, ¿no? Hablar desde una perspectiva territorial, ¿no? O sea, no urbano-rural, sino el territorio como tal y cómo nos pensamos en el territorio, todas las que lo habitamos, habitemos en el medio rural o habitemos en el medio urbano, ¿no? Si pasáis la siguiente, ya estoy... Sí, vale, gracias. Entonces, de lo que estamos hablando es de generar relaciones, sí, campo-ciudad, pero sobre todo de romper con esa visión muy urbana también, o bueno, muy capitalista de centro-periferia, ¿no? Lo visible es lo que está en el centro, lo que colocamos en el centro, ahora mismo lo urbano, ¿no? Y lo rural es una periferia o es un espacio del que extraer los recursos, por decirlo de alguna forma, que se necesitan para sostener esas ciudades, ¿no? Dentro de las propias ciudades también a mí me gusta, bueno, me gusta no, pero suelo decir que también hay un norte y un sur ya dentro de cada ciudad. La perspectiva norte-sur global, que me parece que es pertinente, pero ya cada ciudad incluso, ¿no? Tiene su propio norte y su norte-sur y su propio sur, disculpas, y creo que tenemos que trabajar para romper con esas dicotomías y con esos esquemas, ¿no? Trabajamos también en nuestros grupos.
Perdóname, tú tienes como 2 minutos. Gracias.
Perfecto, suficiente, gracias. Algo que llevamos trabajando sobre todo en los últimos años en nuestros grupos, bueno, no lo he explicado, nuestros grupos son personas productoras y no productoras, pues eso, que colocamos en el centro la alimentación y compartimos bueno, las tareas y los riesgos y nos comprometemos entre todas con esa alimentación de todo ese grupo, ¿no? Y algo que se lleva haciendo bastante en los últimos años es buscar fórmulas para la accesibilidad, ¿no? Para que esto no sea un lujo, sino que esto sea un derecho para todas y todos, ¿no? Y esto es algo que estamos poniendo en marcha, diferentes actuaciones en los grupos para que esto sea así, ¿no? Y no crear nuevas élites, ¿no? Dentro de lo invisible para hacernos más distante. Y esto tiene que ver con una redistribución tanto de los recursos como de las tareas y con esto que llamamos dentro del territorio la acupuntura territorial, ¿no? O sea, buscar los puntos clave, esto lo agarramos un poco de la acupuntura urbana, pero aplicado al territorio, ¿no? O sea, buscar cuáles son los puntos clave para que realmente haya una transformación. Y ya la última, que en un minuto la cuento, es que todo esto nos ha llevado también a rediseñar el propio concepto de viabilidad, ¿no? De cuando hablamos de cuándo es viable un proyecto, nosotras no hablamos de viabilidad, y perdón que no sé si esto tiene muy buena interpretación, pero hablamos de vidabilidad, ¿no? Y hablamos de los 3 componentes para esa vidabilidad. Debe ser viable monetariamente, tenemos que tener los recursos suficientes para vivir, debe ser vivible, debemos estar cuidadas, debemos tener vidas en las que nos relacionemos y tengamos cuidado y realmente la vida esté colocada en el centro, y debemos ser visibles también, ¿no? No podemos estar simplemente como lo alternativo o como algo exótico, cuando realmente lo que defendemos es los derechos de todas las personas y la alimentación sana y sostenible para todas, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, básicamente este es el marco, con esto ya finalizo y bueno, pues creo que quedan patentes como las conexiones, ¿no? Porque al final todo lo que habéis estado hablando es parte de lo que nosotras y nosotros desarrollamos. Y bueno, espero no haber ido muy rápido y que se haya podido entender. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Isa. Also very interesting, very relevant to talk about RIPE for nutrition, for food. And also I thought it was very didactic. I don't know if I say this, very educational, the image of the icebergs. So I think it was very clear to us that the importance of bringing all this that is invisible to the visible context. So thank you very much for your work by doing this, because I know that's it must be very challenging. So now that we had all of our panelists, they all have spoken, I'm going to invite a few discussants that we also invited for this. They're gonna have less minutes to talk than our panelists, but I think that their contributions and their reactions to this, to the previous presentations, I think they're going to be very enriching for us. So firstly, I'm going to deeply thank all of you, all of our discussants for being here. And I'm going to invite Simil Azim. She leads the International Labor Organization's work on cooperatives and the wider social and solidarity economy. So thank you so much, Simil, for being here with us. And we are very, very interested in your reactions about this theme.
Thank you very much, Kelly, and thanks for the invitation. A few thoughts. Of course, you know, in addition to being on the ILO co-op, heading the social and solidarity economy portfolio at the ILO, we've been also co-founders of the UN Task Force on the Social and Solidarity Economy, where not only UN agencies, OECD, but also social and solidarity economy support institutions, movement representatives, researchers are also represented. That's, you know, another venue. And I know one of the co-organizers of this event, RIPESS, is already an observer. With regard to the ILC definition, and Sophia did, of course, a very good job of, you know, highlighting that it is very much value-based and it is very much principle-based. And of course, what's important to remember is when we do these kind of international definitions, they still need to recognize the diversity, right? That is about national circumstances. So it's not like it's not a straight jacket, so to speak. There are, indigenous peoples organizations and different traditions in different regions, different countries that need to be reflected. And some of these values that are mentioned here, you may have additional ones, you may need to, revamp them. And then there is, of course, this opportunity. You have the ILC resolution. There is a strategy and action plan around it. I want to say one thing around that as well. And then there's the UN resolution, and there is a call in that UN resolution for member states, for UN agencies, for financing institutions to take action to support the social and solidarity economy entities. And this is, I think, an opportunity for grassroots organizations, informal economy organizations, to actually utilize. These are very much, I think, tools. At the ILO, for instance, after the ILC resolution, there is a strategy, 7-year strategy. We're in the first year of it now, and it focuses on 5 areas: care economy, advancing the SSC for care, basically, that's one. The second is formalizing the informal economy through SSC, that's the other. And just transitions and how to activate and engage, improve the engagement of social and solidarity economy entities in just transition, show the role they play as recycling workers and as, in their alternative practices, etc., for food security and whatnot. And then the fourth is around crisis and crisis context, because unfortunately, these are not getting less like informality, like care deficits, the crisis context. We are in the middle of so many wars now. There's so much devastation and destruction in so many places now. So again, how does then these community-based, democratically owned and solidaristic organizations at the community level can help build some resilience in the face of these crises, and create some social cohesion, some harmony in these places. Finally, I want to say, was there anything else I wanted to say? I had a note here. Yes, I think I had a note. I put in the chat that we do have this initiative in around care provision through the social and solidarity economy. In fact, we are working with the colleagues in Zimbabwe, Streetnet member and a leader around how do we bring street vendors associations, domestic worker associations together in the provision of childcare through a collective action that also engages with the municipality. But in Colombia, this is with indigenous women, it's happening. So there is also examples of support from our end. So you can, we just need to stay connected, and we are. So thank you for this work, for advancing the thinking on these overlapping areas. And back to you, Kelly.
Thank you so much, Senia. Thank you for bringing the perspective and the work of the International Labour Organization, and also bringing, I think it was very important in your speech when you mentioned that we have to recognize the diversity. So all those international and global definitions, they help us, but they cannot invisibilize all the specificities and all vulnerable groups that have different demands. So it was very important. And also bringing the theme of crisis context. I think that, yes, we have to deal with this more and more. So thank you so much. Next, I'm going to invite La Negra Claudia Albornoz, which is a member of La Poderosa. which is an articulation of neighborhood assemblies in Argentina and other Latin American countries, which seeks to transform the daily reality through education, sports, and community organization. So very nice to meet you, Claudia. You have the floor for your reactions.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Buen día, acá estamos desde Argentina. Mi nombre es María Albornoz, me dicen La Negra. Soy una de las integrantes del feminismo villero, como nosotras la llamamos al feminismo de las mujeres y las disidencias sexuales que vivimos por debajo de la línea de la pobreza. Contarles un poco qué es La Poderosa. Es un movimiento social que el año que viene va a cumplir 20 años en la Argentina y que también tiene asambleas, porque es la forma en que nos organizamos, asambleas en otros países de Latinoamérica. Contarles un poco sobre el trabajo que hacemos en lo cotidiano. Nosotras vivimos en los barrios populares, vivimos en las villas, somos las que hacemos comunidad, y haciendo comunidad es como fuimos aprendiendo sobre las situaciones que vamos pasando y cuáles son las causas de esas situaciones, ¿no? Decimos que somos empobrecidas porque en realidad hay un sistema que empobrece, porque muchas veces nos llaman pobres. En realidad hay un sistema que empobrece, por eso somos empobrecidas. Y desde ahí nos hemos parado en un lugar de mucho activismo, y fuimos conformando estas comunidades de una forma organizada. Estas 114 asambleas, somos como una enredadera de asambleas que están en diferentes barrios populares de la Argentina. Contarles que nosotras hacemos en lo cotidiano muchas actividades en el barrio, en la organización, en la comunidad. Una de ellas, y muy importante, son los comedores y los merenderos, porque los bajos ingresos en la República Argentina no permiten que las familias puedan garantizar un plato de comida. Por eso nosotras tenemos 152 comedores, una red de comedores y merenderos, dentro de lo que son 35.000 comedores y merenderos que hay en la Argentina, de otras organizaciones, de otros movimientos sociales. Pudimos entonces organizarnos de tal manera de saber qué cantidad de mujeres somos las que trabajamos, porque tenemos un observatorio villero, que es el observatorio que en el que vamos construyendo estadísticas para poder entonces entender cuál es la situación de pobreza y el por qué, ¿no? Y también porque las mujeres somos las más empobrecidas en el mundo, y es así como el observatorio villero nos muestra que somos 1.700 las vecinas que trabajamos en estos 152 comedores. Por eso empezamos a tejer una ley, a armar una ley, a pensar una ley para las cocineras, ¿no? Porque somos entonces estas mujeres empobrecidas las que nos ocupamos de realizar en La Poderosa 40.000 platos de comida por día. La Argentina realiza 10 millones de platos de comida entre todos los comedores y merenderos de los otros movimientos. Nosotras nos encargamos de 40.000. Y de ahí empezamos a pensar entonces que este trabajo, que muchas veces está catalogado como voluntario, en realidad nosotras decimos que no podemos ser voluntarias de nuestra propia hambre. Entonces empezamos a poner el ojo en particular sobre el trabajo comunitario, ¿no? Nosotras hacemos comunidad, trabajamos en la comunidad, y nuestro trabajo comunitario permite que las redes de cuidado se sostengan, que las redes de vida se sostengan en los barrios populares, que en la Argentina son más de 5.800, entre 5.800 y 6.000 barrios populares. Entonces, ahí empezamos a elaborar una ley, a pensar una ley, a escribirla, la llevamos al Congreso, y hoy está en proceso entonces dentro de las comisiones del Congreso de la Nación, y lo estamos impulsando para que sea ley. ¿Qué dice nuestra ley? Que las trabajadoras comunitarias, en este caso las cocineras, necesitan una retribución económica porque lo que hacen es un trabajo. Entonces estamos pidiendo un salario mínimo vital y móvil, que es lo que nos permitiría un piso para la vida, y todos los derechos laborales, ¿no? Vacaciones, licencias por maternidad, paternidad, digamos, todo lo que debería ser reconocido como lo que somos, porque somos trabajadoras. Esto nos permitió inclusive poder dialogar con otros movimientos sociales, con otras compañeras, mujeres sobre todo, para que nos demos cuenta, ¿no? De que sí existe la solidaridad, nosotros ponemos muchísimo amor en lo que hacemos, pero es un trabajo que está invisibilizado y un trabajo que necesitamos entonces recuperar desde ese lugar nuestros derechos, y esto permitiría también romper inclusive con los círculos de violencia, porque muchas veces las mujeres estamos en los círculos de violencia, no podemos salir porque no tenemos autonomía o independencia económica. Bueno, esto nos permitiría entonces tener otra base. Otra de las cosas que nos parece fundamental es que en la Argentina, en aquellas personas que viven en situación de pobreza, la mayoría son mujeres y jefas de hogar. O sea que beneficiando entonces a las cocineras, podríamos estar hablando de también llegar a niñas, niños y adolescentes que son los que están a cargo entonces de estas jefas de hogar. Estamos hablando de 150.000 cocineras que hoy están registradas, porque existe un registro de comedores y merenderos en la Argentina que se llama RENACOM, depende del Ministerio de Desarrollo Social de la Nación. Todos estos datos los fuimos recogiendo para hacer la ley, ¿no? Y ahí nos dice que hay alrededor de 150.000 personas anotadas que trabajan en estos comedores. O sea, tenemos los registros, pero estábamos siendo invisibilizadas nuevamente, ¿no? Como trabajadoras voluntarias. Por eso nos decidimos entonces armar esta ley, y es ahora el transcurrir dentro del Congreso lo que estamos propiciando entonces para que rápidamente pueda pasar las comisiones que tiene que pasar y pueda ser discutida en el recinto. Después, obviamente, la economía popular es la que nos sostiene, ¿no? La economía popular en los barrios populares de la Argentina es la que sostiene esta cantidad de familias que si no, no tendríamos el trabajo en la economía popular, que tiene que ver con las vendedoras ambulantes, con un montón de, digamos, de trabajo que nos vamos generando a través de nuestras cooperativas, porque nosotros tenemos nuestros comedores, tenemos espacios de educación popular, y tenemos centros culturales, y también tenemos cooperativas, ¿no? Porque mientras vamos cocinando y vamos tratando de paliar la situación económica, porque los ingresos se desarman por la situación, digamos, de la inflación en la Argentina, nosotras vamos generando entonces, garantizando un plato de comida para esas familias y también pensando en nuestras cooperativas, en el trabajo dentro de la economía popular, que es una economía que muchas veces en Latinoamérica no está contemplada como lo necesitamos, ¿no? Porque realmente la economía popular es la que sostiene a tantas familias en Latinoamérica que viven en barrios populares y que generan así sus ingresos a través de la asociación para comprar materia prima, para poder vender. Bueno, tenemos realmente un nivel de organización que nos da estos casi 20 años, que nos permite entonces poder pensar en la alimentación, en el trabajo, en la educación, como pilares fundamentales entonces en esta organización dentro de los barrios populares. Hasta ahí, si les parece.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much, Claudia. I think you brought a very important issue, which is the work of the invisible work of women in communities, and this important work of the popular canteens, these communitarian canteens. So I think that we have to talk more about women's work in communities, and also about bringing and collecting data, which is a very important work that La Poderosa is doing right now in Argentina. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to call Hernando Sanz Acosta and Paulo Rodriguez, which are part of the Latin America Council of Social Science, CLACSO, and part of the working group of Latin American Urban Process, Injustice, and Inequality. So the floor is yours, Hernando. I don't know if also we have here Paula in the room.
Bueno, hola, un saludo a todos y a todas, a todes. Muchísimas gracias por la invitación para compartir con ustedes en este encuentro sobre economías urbanas diversas e inclusivas. Me presento, mi nombre es Hernando Sáenz, yo soy profesor en la Facultad de Sociología de la Universidad Santo Tomás, acá en Bogotá, en Colombia, y hago parte del grupo Claxon de Procesos Urbanos Latinoamericanos. Hoy quiero conversar con ustedes, contarles algo que hace parte de los proyectos de investigación en los que me muevo. Yo soy economista y además de eso urbanista, y me gusta sobre todo el tema de la movilidad en la ciudad, y en los últimos 3 años estoy en un proyecto trabajando el tema de la movilidad del cuidado. Siguiente, por favor. Yo me vinculé a un proyecto sobre movilidad sostenible que se viene realizando en 2 ciudades en América Latina, en Bogotá y en Lima. Es un proyecto que se llama Modural. Es un proyecto coordinado desde la Universidad de Rennes en Francia, y es un equipo de investigadores de los 3 países que venimos analizando las prácticas de movilidad en las periferias populares de las 2 ciudades, en Bogotá, Colombia, y en Lima, Perú. Y nos hemos focalizado en un primer momento en lo que llamamos movilidad pendular, que son esos desplazamientos que se hacen por motivos de trabajo o de estudio, pero cuando uno va a analizar el tema de la movilidad en las ciudades y particularmente en las ciudades latinoamericanas, hay un elemento estructural que tiene que ver con el tema de las desigualdades, la desigualdad social que se manifiesta también en la movilidad, en cómo nos movemos en la ciudad, quiénes se pueden mover, quiénes tienen la posibilidad incluso de decidir cuándo no se quieren mover, y encontramos que hay unas desigualdades muy fuertes de género en el tema también de la movilidad. No solamente porque la ciudad está pensada desde un punto de vista androcéntrico, es decir, está planificada en función de una movilidad masculina que generalmente es por los motivos de trabajo, saliendo de una periferia para ir a una zona central, sino porque se deja de lado otro tipo de movilidades, como es la movilidad del cuidado, que está vinculada, por lo menos en el caso de las mujeres, con esas otras movilidades que tienen que ver con los motivos de trabajo o de estudio, y también una ciudad que deja por fuera las necesidades de movilidad de otras poblaciones, particularmente de la primera infancia, de las personas con discapacidad o de los adultos mayores. Así que cuando comenzamos el proyecto de investigación, nos topamos también con las restricciones impuestas en Bogotá por la pandemia del COVID-19, y eso hizo también que se manifestara de una forma mucho más clara las desigualdades que estaban teniendo lugar por la manera como se generaron los acuerdos al interior de los hogares. En la Universidad Santo Tomás, donde trabajo, tenemos un proyecto con una estudiante de la maestría, Valentina Prada, y con ella comenzamos a mirar el tema de la movilidad del cuidado vinculada a esta movilidad pendular en el caso de Bogotá. Y lo que podríamos mencionarle en estos breves minutos es como mostrar un poco lo que ha sido el avance en política pública en Bogotá en el tema de el cuidado y particularmente de la movilidad del cuidado. Siguiente, por favor. Siguiente, por favor. No me voy a detener en las definiciones del cuidado. Creo que aquí ya nos han presentado bastante sobre este particular. Simplemente mostrarles aquí un mapa de Bogotá. Bogotá tiene alrededor de unas 8 a 10 millones de personas. Aquí en los círculos rojos hay unas zonas periféricas de la ciudad que venimos trabajando en el proyecto de investigación. Bosa, Porvenir y Soacha, que están localizadas en la parte suroccidente de la capital. Siguiente, por favor. Y mencionar algunos de los elementos demográficos que son importantes para entender el tema del cuidado y de la movilidad del cuidado, porque finalmente cuando estamos hablando de cuidadores y de las personas que son cuidadas, pues es necesario diferenciar los tipos de población porque no es lo mismo cuando los cuidadores tienen que realizar sus desplazamientos con niños, que en este caso hay zonas de la ciudad donde todavía tenemos un componente muy alto de población infantil, a otras zonas de la ciudad donde lo que ya predomina son poblaciones adulto mayor que demandan otro tipo de cuidados y por lo tanto tienen otro tipo de movilidad. En nuestro caso, Bogotá todavía tiene, si se puede decir, un bono demográfico en el sentido de que hay muchas zonas en las periferias populares donde la población infantil es muy alta. Siguiente, por favor. Y eso hace que también se haya comenzado a trabajar desde la Alcaldía de Bogotá en los últimos 3 años en la propuesta de un sistema distrital del cuidado, porque se observaba que efectivamente, y estos son datos de una encuesta que se hizo en Colombia sobre el uso del tiempo, son más las mujeres quienes están dedicándose a las actividades no remuneradas en comparación con los hombres, pero además dentro de esas actividades no remuneradas hay un componente muy fuerte de cuidado de otros miembros del hogar y es por eso, siguiente, que desde la alcaldía se comienza entonces a generar una política pública que tiene 3 elementos centrales: la creación del sistema distrital del cuidado, que deriva también en la creación de un plan de desarrollo que va a terminar en el próximo año, en donde el elemento del cuidado es central. Y eso tiene en el componente territorial.
Fernando, disculpa, tú tienes un minuto.
Ok, la creación de las famosas manzanas del cuidado, que son entonces una oferta de servicios desde el Estado de proximidad para poder aliviar entonces las tareas que las cuidadoras realizan en estos sectores populares. Y creemos, siguiente por favor, que la creación de esas manzanas del cuidado, así como la promoción de sistemas de transporte público como la Rolita, donde todas las mujeres que trabajan conduciendo los autobuses son mujeres, son elementos que nos están ayudando para poder avanzar en la visibilización y en el apoyo a estas economías del cuidado. Creo, para cerrar ya la presentación, que teniendo en cuenta estos avances, hay otro componente también, ¿no?, de oportunidad, que es el gobierno nacional, que acaba de lanzar un plan nacional de desarrollo cuyo eje central son las economías populares, y eso nos plantea poder mirar hacia futuro en Bogotá y en Colombia, no solamente mirar la dimensión económica entre el cuidador y el receptor, es decir, si es un trabajo asalariado o no, sino en comprender mucho más en complejidad y en escala los marcos institucionales que regulan estas economías, y pensar incluso en economías que sean solidarias, en economías que sean populares, y en este caso de mejorar las condiciones de movilidad de esta población. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. And I don't know, I'm going to ask you, Fernando, if I don't know if Paula is here, she's also presenting, or is only you from Claxo?
Pues tenía entendido que ella estaba, pero parece que no está presente aquí.
Sí, bueno. Okay, we are going to the next one, next discussion, and then we come back if she. Okay, so thank you so much for your contributions. I think that the care system in Bogota is really a reference, international reference in Latin America, and I think that's a very interesting initiative to take a look at and to monitor from now on. And I also profit this moment to say hello to Marisol Cabrera, which I think that she's also working on this thematic in Bogota. And well, the next panelist we're discussing, we're going to invite right now, is Ainara Fernandez, and she's part of the United Cities and Local Governments research team responsible for the Global Observatory on Local Democracy and Decentralization Gold, which I think that she's going to bring us very enriching contributions on different initiatives that she met during the process of GOLD. So thank you so much for your presence here, Inara.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be with you today. And it's really important for us to be discussing with you about the promotion of diverse and inclusive local economies, because this is both a key topic priority for UCLG, on which, as you have mentioned, Kelly, we have done extensive work on, but it is also one of the core mandates of UCLG as the political organization that represents the interests of local and regional governments. And if you allow me, I'm going to turn to the latter and then turn to the former, because as we speak, the UCLG World Council is taking place in Konya in Turkey. And this is the moment in which the UCLG political leadership, so that is local and regional government representatives from different parts of the world, they gather together and they discuss what's going to be the policy priorities of the World Organization. And within this World Council, there are the UCLG policy councils, which is the councils in which these elected local and regional government representatives, they put on their UCLG policy councilors' hats, and they discuss what are going to be the concrete policy advocacy priorities of the organization. And it is no coincidence that the first two debates that have taken place with relation to these policy councils this very morning have been about, firstly, reclaiming the commons and the right to the city, and secondly, ensuring opportunities for all through the redefinition of finance and the economy. And I want to share with you what I think are three key ideas from this morning's discussions that I think relate directly to the conversation that we're having. The first one coming directly from the UCLG president, the mayor of Montevideo, Carolina Cose, and this idea being that there is no conversation about the economy that is only about the economy. Whenever we're talking about the economy, there's always social and environmental concerns that are necessarily a part of the economic question. And as such, we need to be looking at these issues in an integrated manner. So for us, promoting inclusive and diverse local economies, it means looking at the implications in terms of social justice, of economic development, but then also looking into the implications in terms of environmental justice of economic development. The second key idea that I wanted to share with you comes from our Secretary General, Emilia Sykes, in her reactions to the different inputs that were shared by the different representatives that were gathered in the World Council this morning. And as our Secretary General was listening to the different interventions, and she was summing up, she was recapping the last debate, she noted how it doesn't matter what city or what region of the world we're looking at. The current financial and economic systems, which are based on the perpetuation of inequalities, on the unequal distribution of care work, on the unequal distribution of quality jobs, there is no place in which these economic and financial systems work, nor for people, nor for the planet. And as governments, as local governments, it is the responsibility that the policy counselors and the UCLG World Organization has to be addressing these issues in an integrated manner. And the third idea that I wanted to share with you is that it was expressed how for local and regional governments, caring for their populations is actually related to protecting the global commons, but also the urban commons. And within these urban commons, there are commoning strategies such as informal economic activities that are undertaken by their populations that need to be protected, that need to be reinforced. But then also that local and regional governments care for their populations through the provision of adequate local public services. And in the wealth and diversity of the perspectives that were shared in the debates this morning, there is one final idea, at least for me, that is very important to share with you as a part of this debate, which is that redefining finance and the economy to ensure opportunities for all, to promote inclusive and diverse local economies, means different things to the different cities and territories around the world. And this is based on their different histories, based on the different decentralization frameworks that they face. It is based on their different challenges that they're facing nowadays. And for a global organization like UCLG, representing these diverse realities requires working in coalitions with a diversity of actors, a plurality of actors at different levels. And as such, within UCLG, there is the Local Economic Development Forum that works particularly on the social and solidarity economy. But there's also the Global Fund for Cities Development. We're part of the U20 Climate Finance Working Group. There's the Malaga Global Coalition for Municipal Finance, the Global Commission for the Urban SDG Finance, in which UCLG is also playing a role. And there are also these global processes in which UCLG is engaging. But representing this diversity also requires being able to understand that redefining this current financial and economic systems, it requires moving away from sectoral approaches to promoting diverse and inclusive local economies. And then, now I'm turning to the format, as I said before. In particular, with our colleagues from UCL, the University College London, and the International Institute of Environment and Development, and with a key and invaluable collaboration from the Global Platform on the Rights of the City, we produced this big investigation. So the 6th edition of the Global Observatory on Local and Local Democracy Decentralizations report, which was on identifying pathways through which coalitions of local actors, so local and regional governments, but working in coalition with their communities, with local knowledge institutions, they could promote pathways to urban and territorial equality. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into the different cases that we managed to highlight as a part of this process. I'm going to put all of that information in the chat. But just to mention a few of the topics that were covered, we focused on the rights of female workers in India's construction sections. We focused on women-led savings groups in informal communities. We focused on housing. We focused on the role of inclusive local procurement. We focused on a lot of different topics. All of these cases are fully accessible online, and I'm going to share them with you in the chat now. But just to say that this is going to be the basis of the upcoming work that we're going to be doing, which is going to be centered on the economies of equality, and the work that the Global Platform and the different organizing institutions here today, the work that you have done is really enlightening for us, because it allows to put at the center the collective dimensions of rights, and because it allows to look at different scales. And we have seen from the different speakers, and I have been taking good note about the implications of looking into diverse and inclusive economies for people, for the scale of the neighborhood, for the scale of the city, and also for the relationships between cities and the wider territories. So it's going to be a pleasure, hopefully exploring future work with you along these lines. And I really hope that we will continue to collaborate to further advance our shared agendas. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Ainara. UCLG is a very key partner for us, and I think that you are very important for all this advocacy for the role of local governments in all this discussion. Thank you for bringing some updates of UCLG Council, and also I think to bring all this discussion on economic and financial system that we have to challenge, and we have to find other alternatives for this very unequal system. So thank you so much for your comments. Just to mention that we really would appreciate to have also the presence of someone from the Global Alliance of Care and from the National Movement of Waste Pickers in Brazil, but we couldn't, unfortunately. So now I will open the discussion for the other participants here. You can, I don't know if you would like to do some reactions. I only ask you to be very brief and very objective, please, because we have only a few minutes to end this session. So I'm starting with Alison, so please be objective and brief. Alison, thank you so much for your participation.
So I wanted to make a couple of points. My name's Alison Brown. I'm from Cardiff University, but I've got many years of research on urban informality. I wanted to say it's a fantastic initiative. I think the document is very clear. It's a very powerful advocacy tool. And also the convening power of the global platform is incredibly important. So, and it was also very inspiring to hear from experience on the ground from Josephine and Francis and Claudia and many of the others. And also to see how this concept of informality, social solidarity and care are brought together. But I think there are two next steps which are really important. How do we look at the enabling? So this isn't the end, it's just the starting point. And if everybody on the platform today was to share their experience on the platform, that's starting to be the way in which advocacy can be created. And the other thing that I wanted to pick up was on the work that the context that Simil mentioned from the ILO, which is the critical issue of places in crises, and how equality and diversity in employment and livelihoods can be the rescuing force in diversity. I've spent the last 3 years working with the International Institute on Environment and Development on looking at forced displacement and informality and informal work. And that's another dimension which hasn't as yet come out of this platform, but also to re-emphasize the important role of local governments. Local governments are the key in providing the urban services. So I think congratulations to the team on this very important work, which is the result of it's the culmination of a campaign over many years. Well done.
So much. Thank you so okay. Thank you so much, Alison. Great to hear that you also can contribute to this this diffusion of the campaign, and we have Alice in the UK. So thank you so much. I don't know if anyone else would like to say some comments or to react to our presentations. I don't know, Marisol, if I can call you to talk a little bit about the work of caring in Colombia, also to emphasize what Fernando beautifully presented to us, but only if you feel comfortable to.
Yes, sure. Why not? Hello, everyone. I prefer speaking in Spanish, if you don't mind. Bueno, yo soy Marisol Cabrera, soy parte de la Red Mujer y Hábitat de América Latina y el Caribe y parte de la Fundación ABP en Bogotá, Colombia. Sí, muy interesante la exposición de Hernando Sáenz, y pues contarles que nosotros también estuvimos trabajando de la mano de la Secretaría de la Mujer, mirando toda esa implementación de las manzanas del cuidado, que de verdad pues son una iniciativa extraordinaria de la alcaldesa, que además ella lo hace por un compromiso con las organizaciones de mujeres, ¿no? No es una ocurrencia de la alcaldesa, sino fue haciendo honor a un compromiso que hizo con las organizaciones de mujeres de Bogotá, que llevaba mucho tiempo pidiendo, incidiendo que se hiciera un sistema distrital de cuidados, ¿no? Entonces eso quiero dejarlo claro, que es muy importante, ¿no? Todo ese trabajo de base, todo el trabajo de las mujeres, de las organizaciones. Y bueno, también contarles que pues dentro de nuestros análisis sobre las manzanas del cuidado, pues veíamos precisamente lo que comentaba Hernando sobre la necesidad también de una movilidad para el cuidado. Y vemos también que en algunas localidades, en Bogotá tenemos 20 localidades, en algunas localidades se ha conseguido en alianza con los gobiernos locales, con las alcaldías locales, que estaban ayudando a llevar a las personas, tanto cuidadoras como personas que requieren cuidados, a la manzana del cuidado. Y pues contarles también que todo ese despliegue de la implementación de manzanas del cuidado, en este momento hay 20 manzanas del cuidado, tenemos 20 localidades, sin embargo no es suficiente para una ciudad tan grande, y sobre todo cuando las localidades son de diferentes tamaños. Entonces, dentro del plan de ordenamiento territorial quedaron plasmadas 45 manzanas y esperamos que la próxima alcaldía pues siga implementando manzanas del cuidado y que se continúe hasta completar por lo menos esas 45 manzanas. Bueno, contarles eso. Gracias, Kelly, por el espacio. Un abrazo. Gracias a todos. Creo que he aprendido también de todas las intervenciones.
Thank you so much, Marisol. Es un gusto verte acá. And I don't know if anyone else would like to, I don't know, to comment. Otherwise, I think that we can conclude the session. Of course, I'm just would like to emphasize that this is the beginning of a global campaign based on the work of lots of partner organizations that are really working with this thematics since a long time, and we would like to visibilize and to put some emphasis on that kind of work and to articulate all this work in a global campaign. And we would appreciate to have all your support. And I don't know, someone raised their hands. I don't know if I missed. Okay, I think that. Okay, I think that. Marixa Contreras, would you like to react very quickly? And Maite, and then we finish with Sofia, with Sofia's closing. So Marisha, and then Maite,
Sí,
and then we close.
Hola, muy buenos días. No enciendo la cámara porque acá no hay muy buena señal, pero quiero felicitarlos de aquí desde Guatemala, en la cual escuchando los intercambios de experiencia, el trabajo para las mujeres y todo el estilo de todo el trabajo que ustedes están haciendo, pues es similar aquí el trabajo arduo para las mujeres aquí en Guatemala, la verdad, en todos los estilos de la agricultura sostenible, la alimentación, la movilidad segura, llegar oportunidades para las mujeres, poder ayudar a tener comunidades para apoyarlos y hacer la resiliencia entre nosotros, resiliencias comunitarias, realmente escuchar estos intercambios y nuevas expectativas, nuevas experiencias de ustedes, nos retroalimentan, ¿verdad? Para poder hacer una parte inclusiva, la cual me llamó mucho la atención en esa parte que tienen comedores, parte inclusiva con personas discapacidad, es parte de un plus, ¿verdad? Porque son las personas más vulnerables de diferentes sectores y pues nos agrada muchísimo que ustedes estén compartiendo toda esta experiencia, trabajo bastante arduo, con mucho amor, ¿verdad? Y pues la lucha es grande y pues un abrazo fuerte desde acá de Guatemala y a seguir trabajando por los derechos de las mujeres.
Thank you so much, Marisha. It's great to hear from Guatemala, and we are together on this fight for our rights. And I think that Maite now, the last one, and then I pass the floor for Sofia.
Yes, very quickly, and I'm sorry for a camera, but I'm driving and I'm in the phone right now. But just to say, like, congratulations to all the speakers. Absolutely great interventions and a lot of similarities. What are we having and developing, trying to combine and developing curricula on the food systems as a right to the city for women. That's very important and interesting. But also a brief comment on every place that we can see right now that some care systems, that some initiatives on food systems as well. And food systems is more related after COVID, not with COVID, because we were facing that kind of crisis. But in the sense of if you can map what we are doing, Maite Rodriguez, I'm the regional coordinator of the Women and Habitat Latin American and Caribbean Network. We're doing right now a mapping process and finding that these cities that, you know, like the now are emerging with very important care systems and food systems were the cities that were also claiming it by the first safety for women. And this is, I mean, this is not, there's no doubt that safety is very, very related to mobility, to urban systems and food systems, urban care systems, whatever, because means that women can move. I mean, women can go outside to work, to produce, to feel safe. If they feel safe, they can be trained, whatever it is. Like, this is some of the main aspects that Women and Habitat Latin America Network is right now, you know, like recalling that we don't need to find a new way to without including safety for women and safety in public spaces, not only because we are gonna develop a fair or an urban, you know, fair trade activity. No, it's because we need daily safety for women and girls in our cities and territories. That's it. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Maite. Thank you so much. Very important to articulate safety, mobility, gender rights, and caring systems. I think it's very central in our discussion as well. So I'll pass the floor for Sophia so she can conclude our panel.
Thanks a lot, Kelly, and thanks for the moderation. So I'm just gonna say some quick words now in Spanish in the end, and also in place for Lorena Zarate, who is also part of the team, and she's joining and listening in, but she's having connection issues, so she apologizes, but I'll try to fill in her shoes at the best of my capacity. Pues nada, agradecer muchísimo a todas y a todos que están acá, a su participación, a su reflexión, y en particular a todos que han participado en los paneles. Ha sido realmente un gusto poder escucharles, y es impresionante, por más que nos esforcemos, el tiempo siempre queda corto, entonces espero poder verles pronto otra vez, y a todos los que vinieron también a comentar y aportar ideas. Y nada, y también a los intérpretes y al equipo, a todas las organizaciones que están por detrás de este esfuerzo. Y como palabra final, lo que dejaría es, bueno, también animarles a seguirle dando vida a esta discusión, sumándose a la campaña. Tendrán toda la información en los enlaces que he acabado de poner acá en el chat. Y básicamente decir que la idea de hoy no era solo lanzar y presentar la publicación, pero a partir de las diferentes exposiciones y comentarios, como darle vida realmente. Lo que nos quedamos cortos en la publicación en sí era poder entrar más en casos, en relatos directos. Eso lo intentamos incorporar en la campaña, pero poder escucharlos así, en un espacio como este, con tanta diversidad de perspectivas regional, de estrategias, de diferentes actores en nivel local, nacional, y siempre en lo que tentamos trabajar del translocal y del intercambio. Es muy positivo, me deja la verdad que muy contenta poder escucharles todos y que sigamos así. Entonces, pues muchas gracias, que tengan un muy buen día. Buenas noches a los que están un poco más lejos y hasta una próxima.
Gracias, hasta la próxima.
Gracias a todos. Obrigada a todos. Buen día.
Gracias.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.